All right, welcome to a very special episode of the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast on cincyjungle.com. It's very special, not because of me my guy next to me, John's a pretty special dude, I guess, too. Yeah, but we've had a couple of big guests this week, and of course, we've teased it for the past couple of days. We are happy to be joined by former Bengals wide receiver Mohamed Sanu. He's joining us to talk about a special project that he's got going on. Mohamed, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. Thanks for having me on here, Anthony and John. Just enjoying the time with the family, trying to, do things within the community and just, staying ready, staying in shape in case anything pops off. But I'm glad y'all got me on the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate that. And hey, man, we talked about it a little bit before we brought you on. I know sleep's at a premium for you right now, but a public congratulations for the new addition in your growing family, man. Hopefully everyone's happy, healthy, and I know sleep, like I said, sleep's probably at a premium, but hopefully everything's going well there.
Yeah, Millie, she's been mama up, and my mom is doing great, and the little bro's helping out. So we're grateful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Mohamed's here to talk about a cool project, Develop Africa. We're going to hear about that, more about that in just a little bit. But we are trying to raise, I know Bengals fans are very generous. We've been able to raise quite a bit of money for other Bengals-related charities or player charities. And, of course, we want to hear more about what he's doing in Africa and the cool things there. But we are going to share this GoFundMe link within the live chat and everything. So we need your support. Mohamed would really appreciate your support, as would we, obviously. But Mo, we're going to talk a little football, if you don't mind, before we talk about what the cool project you got going. And this being the draft weekend, I guess we could kind of start a little bit in chronological order with your career and talk, if you would, about your pre-draft process. I know there's, it's a wild time. You're interviewing with a lot of people and obviously trying to put your best foot forward workout wise. I guess just if you have some funny experiences or really weird questions, if you're able to share that the team's asked you during that process, we would love to hear that.
I didn't really have any weird questions. Like my pre-draft experience was unique and cool. The combine was crazy in itself. I had a lot of different meetings. The meeting with the Patriots was just simple because I'm known Coach Belichick for beforehand, so I played with his son Steve, so that meeting was unique. And then the meeting with the Bengals was really dope too. I remember, they had asked me to remember certain colors and numbers, and I think I remembered everything but one if I'm getting it correct. But it was just a cool experience. And then even I was even on my draft day, I got a prank call. So it was
man,
I have a unique experience to necessarily tell. So it was cool. I'm grateful. I got prank called to get drafted to the Bengals, and I ended up getting drafted the next day to the Bengals, which was cool. So
yeah, that's just got to be a very unique experience. I'm sure you've been asked about that quite a bit, but what I'm curious about is when you did get the first call and you heard it was the Bengals, was it surprising? Did you have any inclination that the Bengals were interested in you? What was the list of teams like that?
Well, I knew they were interested. They were one of the teams that came to visit. Coach Herb came to visit. We watched film together when the bubble didn't really work out. We just play catch necessarily because he seen me work out. We were just talking football, and that's necessarily it. But I knew they were one of the teams that were interested in me, so it wasn't anything far-fetched. But it was unique, and I didn't really care for it. I ended up going where I needed to go anyway, so I was grateful.
Well, speaking with Mohamed Sanu, former Bengals wide receiver, former Falcons, Patriots wide receiver, a guy that had a successful and is still a successful career. We're keeping that phone active throughout the spring and summer as well, as he told us before we took the air here. Mo, I don't know if you know, but I'm going to share this with you here. You currently are one of the more successful, at least statistically per passers in Bengals history. I gotta show you this here. this obviously is one of my favorite plays that you ever had with the Bengals, the big bomb. I think this was your rookie year to AJ against against Washington there. Can you walk us through that play and like what's the play call? I mean, are you getting like super big butterflies? You know, like, man, this isn't, you know, the top job descriptor of my job, but I mean, I don't know. Just walk us through that in the huddle when that play comes across.
I wasn't nervous at all because I mean, it wasn't the first time I ever thrown a football, so like it wasn't nothing new to me. I know how to do that and I know how to play football. So it was new to a lot of, I guess, fans and, you know, people that's never seen me do it before. And Coach Gruden knew that I can throw and knew that I've done it before. So he was asking me, you know, all week, like, he's like, hey, man, if I call this first play, like, you going to be ready, dude? Like, and I'm sitting there saying, like, yeah, I'll be ready. Like, I mean, don't be afraid to call it. You call it, it'll be a touchdown. Like, you know, trying to get him to call it. Like, so it was, I mean, ironically, like, I guess my shoulder was sore. Like, my shoulder was sore all week from, like, blocking and stuff.
Oh,
so,
wow.
like, I mean, that's part of my game. Like, so I wasn't sure. Like, I was like, dang, I don't know how I'm gonna get it down there. But I mean, game time came around, and it was pregame. I was actually throwing like excessively just to make sure my shoulder was good. So I would just I would play it off like we were just playing catch or whatever. But I was really like making sure it was straight. But it felt great. So I was like, all right. Boom.
I mean,
it was
pretty ball, yeah.
Yeah, first play of the game, like, boom. Like, if we get the look, like, I'm a candidate to the pass, and then we're going to run it. But if they didn't come down in cover zero, I was supposed to run the ball. But if they did, that's when I was supposed to can it to the bomb and throw it to AJ.
Yeah, considering it's probably the best deep ball I've ever seen with my eyes, I'm pretty sure you practiced it before. So yeah, I'm not surprised that you weren't nervous about it. But that rookie season, it was fun in pretty unique ways watching it from a fan's perspective, just because that receiving core was so young with you. Mm-hmm. AJ was his second year. You were drafted with Marvin Jones. Andrew Hawkins was in the slot. You even had Armand Benz. I went to UC. He was a big Bearcats fan, so he was out there too. How's that group dynamic like?
Oh yeah, I love that group. That was my rookie year. We had fun, man. Like, I learned so much from Armand and Hawk, and me and Marv were roommates. So me and Marv were like this, and coming in together, we learned so much from each other. We pushed each other, like, to get better and better. And then, you know, AJ being in the mix, you know, his talent like helped us grow as well. So we were all feeding off each other. And we pushed each other to get better and better. And that's what I enjoyed about that group.
Well, it was a hell of a talented group. Talking with Mohamed Sanu, and he is joining us not only just as a special guest for draft weekend, but we want to highlight what he's doing, develop Africa, and we'll hear about that in just a minute. I got to play another video clip. And by the way, it's not like John and I, believe it or not, we kind of improvise a little bit of our questions and stuff. This was like kind of improvised. And he said, "Oh, I got this question right before you took the air. I've got this question for Mo," and he just asked it. So this is a good segue, I think, for this. A while ago, right before the Bengals made the Super Bowl, during the 21 season, we had the privilege of speaking to this guy right here, Chad Johnson. And I asked him, you know, you were part of a great trio with Marvin Jones, AJ Green, and yourself. I asked him about Chad with Henry, Hoosh, and himself. And then, of course, the current group, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. So I want you to hear his answer when I asked him, and then of course I'd love to get your take on it about his answer and what you feel the best group was. And this may elicit a trademark 2-word Chad Johnson response, but I gotta ask you, Chad, TJ, Slim, AJ, Marvin Jones, most Sanu, Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. Which trio are you taking as the goats there? And I'm thinking I know where you might go, but
right. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go with the Chase Higgins Boyd route simply for the fact they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, still, I think there's a good case for all of you, but that's what Chad had to say.
But they did what none of us could do at that point in time. Like they're all like that's what I would agree with that. Like Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, like they mesh so well together. Like even me, Marv, and AJ did, and so did TJ, Slim, and Chad. Like they all mesh well together, and that's the unique part about it. Like, and that's one thing I love about the Bengals organization. They know how to, draft. They know how to get the right pieces together. Get the right players together and feed off each other.
Well, no slight meant by his answer there, but I wanted to share that with you. And obviously, he hesitated.
Mm-hmm.
He had to think, and he didn't pick himself. So
no, I mean, any rightful spot, you're supposed to pick yourself. But I mean, I would agree with him. Like, I think it would be, Jamar, T. Hig, and Boyd. Like that group. That group is really, really dangerous together.
So all three of those receivers obviously have made the Super Bowl as you did the first year that you left the Cincinnati Bengals, but going to 4 straight playoff appearances before having that run with the Falcons, like what did those losses, or at least those appearances, kind of teach you and help you grow so that you could, contribute to a team that made the Super Bowl the next year?
Well, honestly, it's just like the trials and the tribulations, and then learning the learning curve, and knowing like, okay, like the mistakes that you made in the past, the things that you fell short in, your shortcomings beforehand, knowing like how to evolve yourself, and then knowing how to learn from the teammates, learning how to push your teammates. It all takes like time, and learning how to look in the mirror and see what you can correct in your game, because we all have a part in, why something isn't successful. Like there's no finger, what I'm saying, that you're like, oh, this guy didn't do this guy didn't do that. So it's like the ability to like, okay, put your best foot forward, and how are you able to help this team become better? Like, how am I able to make sure my teammate is doing his part, or I'm doing my part, or making sure our communication level is at its highest level? Like, that's what's going to make any team like successful. Like, and that's what I learned from every team that I've been a part of. Like, is that communication level from coach to coach, player to player, player to coach. Like, it has to be, everybody got to be talking the same language, and we all have to be on the same page, and we have to move as one. Like, you can't have somebody else going in the same different direction or thinking that there's something different. Like, if we all working towards the same goal, common goal, like there's no way we cannot be not be successful.
Talking to Mohamed Sanu, former Bengals wide receiver, and talking about his project in just a minute, Develop Africa, and the great work that he is doing with his mother. So we'll talk about that in just a second there. But Mo, you were on the team. You were on some great Bengals teams, right? You made the 5. The team made 5 straight postseasons. But unfortunately, you were also on the team that had that collapse against the Steelers and all of that. You left shortly after that. But I wanted to ask you. I mean, did you? The team wasn't able to recover after that, right? I mean, mentally, they just were not able to recover. Did you get a sense after that game, like, hey, man, this is going to be hard to rebound from as a team? Or did you feel like going into, I know the offseason played out a different way for you. Did you feel like maybe, hey, it just didn't go our way, and we or they will be back?
I honestly, like that, I didn't know, because I knew like at that point in time, like a lot of people wasn't sure if we were all coming back, what this situation may be or not.
Right.
But like I knew like that was one of the opportunities that we had, because that team was really, really good. When Andy got hurt and AJ came in and did a heck of a job, but it was just like Andy, like he built himself like mentally, physically to get to that point in time, and he was ready. He was prepared. I feel like Andy, he probably would have got it done with that team, but it's just wasn't in the cards for us. Just the way like we played that year. You can watch it in the film, the way he had command of the team. We're just different. We're just totally different.
Yeah.
And that year, that's what was the disappointing part. And you can just tell that like it sucked the energy a lot, like out of a lot of people. As if you could tell.
I remember I know John's got a question for you, but I just sidebar. I remember specifically early in that season, that Seahawks game, and you were a big integral part in that game, making some key catches along with other, many other games early in that season too. But to spark that 8-0 start, really special season, despite what happened at the end of it.
I remember that. Yeah, with a couple third down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Marv's popped it off with that seam on the right
Yep.
side for like 40 yards. I remember all that stuff.
He's going play by play.
Yeah.
It meant a lot, man. Like that run that season
Yeah.
will forever be in a lot of Bengals fans' minds. And it was one part of your long 10-year career, very successful NFL career, a career that you attribute to your mom and how she helped you out. What would you say was her biggest impact in just how successful you were as a professional football player?
Well, I mean, just the reason. I mean, without her, I wouldn't even be here to begin with. I mean, she worked her way from Sierra Leone all the way to come to America to give me and my siblings, the life that she felt like we may have wanted or felt like we deserved. You know, find a way to get her green card and gain her citizenship, and you know what I'm saying, for us to be born here and living the American dream. Like a lot of you wouldn't know who Mohamed Sanu is just because of what she went through to have me, my sister, and my brother, my other sister here. Like, my oldest two brothers were, she had them back in Sierra Leone. So, like, I mean, they didn't really necessarily have the same opportunities, but like for me, like I was able to, work my tail off to earn a scholarship and to, have a chance to chase my dream and play in the NFL and become what I want to become today, a successful businessman, and doing all the things that I do off the field. Like, she was a pivotal point in that because I watched the way she worked her tail off to become the woman she is today. Like, I mean, she never had anything handed to her. She worked for it, and that's why I work the way I do, and I go as hard as I do in everything that I do, and always try to leave a lasting impression on people.
Well, she did an awesome job because you've made a hell of a name for yourself, my friend. And part of that name is in what you are doing in Africa and Sierra Leone specifically. I'm going to pull up the GoFundMe page. Can you, I mean, you told us a little bit about potentially some of the inspiration behind the idea of what you're doing here, but if you can maybe give us a little bit more backdrop, specifically why this area, why this region, and then of course, what you're needing from Bengals fans and everything to help, so we can help you achieve the goals that you've set forth here.
Well, it's going to be a community center my mom's building in the hometown that she was born and raised in, on the land that actually my grandfather left for her. And so she wants to build a community center to help the people in the community. There's a lot of people that don't have the necessary needs and the tools to further their education to the level that they necessarily want to. Like, for instance, like, we have access to have this conversation on a live stream platform, and a lot of those kids don't have any access to the computer or internet to to gain access to information that they're trying to learn and study, or what, like trying to be doctors, lawyers, and how vital a computer is to even learn the things that you need to learn to become what you want to become. So I know there's a lot of kids that are growing up in Sierra Leone, that country, and they're trying to have they have dreams, they're trying to obtain goals, and I feel like I know that this computer lab is going to help. The community center is going to help. So there's going to be, on the first floor, it'll be a like a storefront where people could have like store property for whatever their business is. And then the second floor will be like a hall venue for people to have a lot of social events, because that's what a lot of Sierra Leoneans do. They have a lot of events to promote whatever is going on within the community, and they don't necessarily have a space to do that. And then the third floor will be the community center, will be the computer lab, where they'll have their various different classes running out of there, various different activities for kids to learn how to necessarily navigate a computer, let alone what it is. So it's awesome. it's been going. My mom's been working on it for like the past 4 years, and I mean, we've been doing a lot of the groundwork for it. And I just feel like, I
Mhm.
mean, why not get, you know, Bengals fans, Falcons fans, all of the people that I've, had impact while I've been playing in the NFL to, you know, have an impact on, the community that I'm from, where I grew up, or where my mom is from, grew up, because I lived there from when I was 3 to 6. So like I've spent time living there, and I know that, what the community is like. So it's I just felt like, I've been, in the TVs or the computer screens or
Mhm.
stadiums near a lot of people. So I feel like they, you know, if, if any of those memories that I had for you guys that meant anything to you, I feel like you guys will want to be a part of what I'm doing and leave a lasting memory, a lasting legacy somewhere and all halfway across the world. You'll be able to see your name on a brick or on the wall of a community center in Freetown, Sierra Leone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And here's what we're gonna do. I mean, as I mentioned, we have the link in the live chats for folks there. Go donate. We're gonna try and round up some prizes for some folks and kind of draw it random to incentivize people donating, whether it's $12 for your jersey number, whether it's 23 for the 2023 draft, anything like that.
Yeah,
If you're so inclined, give something if you can. We will also, as a show, pool a donation, and as the Cincy Jungle website, we'll pool a donation and send something over to you in the very near future. And here's what else we're going to do, Mohamed. I'm going to make sure that this goes to the Falcons platform through the SB Nation websites, Patriots, and kind of disseminate really throughout the network to really try and get extra legs behind this thing aside from Bengals fans. But I appreciate you coming on, man. Yeah, I know you got your hands full with the little ones and everything. I appreciate you coming on, man. And I got to tell you, I mean, we've been able to speak to a lot of cool people on this show, but we're also strategic in who we do invite on, because we got soft spots for them. They're personal favorites, at least for me. You were that when you were on the Cincinnati Bengals. I loved watching you play.
man.
Yeah, no smoke, man. I'm serious. I
means a
really
lot.
enjoyed. Yeah, really enjoyed watching you play. So this means a lot to me personally that you came on the show, and I know my co-host would probably echo those sentiments there. But
the best Bengals tattoo I've ever seen, by the way. The arm, the tiger stripe on the arm. Yeah,
badass. Yeah.
But you didn't know it goes into a tiger head in the back, did you?
I did know. No.
Ooh. Well, if you can, take a picture and tweet it at us, man. We'll take a look at it. But hey, take care of your little ones. Congratulations on the new addition to your family. We're going to do what we can to get all kinds of funds to you. I appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate you, John. Blessings to y'all. Hopefully catch up soon. See y'all around, man. Blessings to all y'all, man. Appreciate y'all helping in any way. It means a lot to us, Sanu family. Especially people back home. I know they're going to be more grateful than I am, because they're the ones that are going to get the benefits from this. So thank you, guys.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. Take care.
Take it easy, y'all.
All right. Well, that was Mohamed Sanu. And we got another special guest joining us, Jason Garrison. Jason, what's going on, dude? How you doing?
Not much. I'm good. How are you guys?
Tired already. Is that bad?
Yes.
Exhausted.
Hey, so I haven't been keeping a pulse so much on the recent happenings. Someone, I think one of our listeners, our buddy Mike Holbrook, texted me saying there's maybe a big trade in the works. There's a rumor about that. Obviously,
Bengals moving up.
I don't know if it's the Bengals or just a giant draft trade in general. But I don't know if you guys heard some recent rumors or not. But obviously, go for it if you have, because we've been a little tied up.
The one that I heard that I think that you're probably talking about is the Tennessee Titans moving up and acquiring DeAndre Hopkins.
Wow.
So I don't know what they'd be giving up to move up to what are the Cardinals at? 3, I think? 4, maybe? So acquiring DeAndre Hopkins and moving up and swapping picks with giving up multiple picks. I don't know. That's what I heard. I don't know what the terms would be. So
Well, that would
Well, it was
shake
reported
things up.
that like the Ravens were trying to get something with Hopkins after they like extended Lamar. So like I'm sure they're not really
Yeah.
thrilled about that. But yeah, it did seem like Hopkins was probably going to be on the move around the draft for sure.
yeah, I would definitely prefer Hopkins to play in Tennessee than Baltimore, 100%. So
It's just interesting, just because like they have Odell and they attach like void years, so like they're just going all in this year, and like
Yeah.
Hop is like what 31, so like they're going all in for this year for sure, just to like appease Lamar. After this, I have no idea what the Ravens look like in 2024 and beyond.
yeah, I don't know. I do know that I think he saw the Lamar's contract is 260 million and
Yep,
185 or 165 guarantee. I think it's 185.
85.
Yeah. So at least Burrow will get more than that. But I mean, I don't think it's going to be just a step up like it was a step up from from Hurts to Lamar Jackson. I think it'll be. I think Burrow deserves quite a bit more. So we'll see.
This is from Bengal Jam here. Jacksonville lost starting left tackle due to performance-enhancing drugs violation. Could be trade bait for Jonah Williams potentially. They are tackle hungry, I would think. I mean, they lost Jawan Taylor to Kansas City. I can't remember off the top of my head what they did to potentially remedy that loss. But, if you're talking about losing Jawan Taylor and then now you have their left tackle, with a PED violation, that is not great news for the Jaguars. And this is kind of, as much John and I kind of talked about this, Jason, I mean, and I'd love both your guys' thoughts on it, but I mean, really, while the big story is what are the Bengals doing with their first round pick and what are they going to do at night 2? I mean, the thing to gauge as the night goes on tonight and potentially into tomorrow is Jonah Williams. What's going to happen there? What if they do move him, what they net for him? I know he's been sitting out there for a while, and he may have potentially, in some ways, diminished the trade value the Bengals could get because he did the public trade me thing. But this is kind of like you saw. DeAndre Hopkins has been out there since free agency, right? I mean, now all of a sudden, draft night, people are supposedly making a move for him. It's the same thing here. The frenzy picks back up because the phones start ringing and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a major storyline to monitor. Of course, along with who they're going to take first, their first round pick.
I don't know. I was waiting for John to say. I didn't know. Okay, either way, I think it's just going to depend on how the draft falls. I mean, if Jacksonville, I don't know where they're picking, but if 24th, okay.
Yeah.
If there's really not anybody available at 24 and there's not a tackle that they can take, or if guys like Wright, I assume Paris Johnson and Skoronski will be gone before then. But if like Darnell Wright's not there, I don't see them reaching for DeJuan Jones or Harrison at, you said 24, John, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if it's not there and they take somebody else, you could see a situation where they say, okay, well, day 2, we absolutely need a tackle. We don't know if we'll get one. Maybe they'll trade a 3rd-round pick or something like that. Just depends on what happens tonight. I'm not anticipating Jonah Williams being traded tonight. If he's going to be traded, I would think it would be tomorrow. Or Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Here's because there's buzz about Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was Tony Pauline who kind of put that out there into the ether. From what I know, that's not really like a thing. Like, it makes sense why he would be a target. He's a team captain. He's built a lot like Jackson Carman. He has a lot of starting experience. So it makes sense as like a day 2 target. I think it's like a worst case scenario for day 1. I'm not going to say that they're completely out on offensive tackles. I think obviously one of the big ones fall for inexplicable reasons. I feel like they would be in consideration. But they have all the cards right now. They have all the leverage with Jonah Williams. And if they don't come out of the draft with a tackle that they feel like can compete to start with one of the plethora of options that they have, then they're just going to hold on to him and just see what happens. But if they do get a tackle and another team does not, if you're in the 3rd or 4th round, and at that point, if you have a team who has a lot of salary cap space open, like the Bears, who just need to hit like a certain floor just in terms of cash spending, then you could just trade Jonah for like a mid or late round pick just for the sake of getting that $12 million off your books at that point, if you're so confident in the room, but I don't think there's like an urgency to trade him. Definitely not tonight. I feel like there's not going to be a team that's going to miss out on a tackle that really wants to tackle, that'd be so desperate to trade like a second round pick for Jonah. If it does happen, I think it's going to be between the third and fourth rounds, and only if they find a tackle that falls. Because honestly, I think it's very likely that they come out of this draft without taking a lineman in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think also to your guys' point, I mean, teams, I don't know that I don't think I expect movement of him tonight, if movement at all, because what's probably going to happen are teams are going to look at, okay, who got picked tonight, right? And then who's left over for night 2? Where do we have those players left over on our board here? And then, where we pick, or do we anticipate some of these players being available? So I don't even know. I mean, you said between rounds 3 and 4. I think by round 2 we may have an idea as to, midway through round 2, because then you might get another run at the position, and then teams go, "Wow, now we got to start making a move here," because all of a sudden our draft board is really getting out of whack. However, teams may have that. So, maybe I'm just hopeful thinking, and maybe I know that the net may not be as high as if the trade talk was kept quiet, but. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I could also see a situation too where a team is between deciding, like maybe in the 3rd round or 4th round, they're between deciding on a guy like, hey, do we take this 4th round offensive tackle and we don't know what we're going to get, or do we trade this 4th round pick for Jonah Williams and we know exactly what we're going to get? We're going to get a guy who he's played okay in the past, but I think he's 25. He's got 42 or something starts like that. That's nothing to sneeze at. You know what I mean? He's played well in the past. It was just a bad year. I don't particularly see them trading him, because his options are play as good as you can, as well as you can at right tackle, or commit career suicide. And he's just not going to do that. So, he's not going to sit out or anything like that. And they got Jonah Williams, Leo Collins, if and when he's healthy. They've Zach Taylor said that Cody Ford's going to compete at right tackle. Jackson Carman has experience now at tackle and guard. So does Hakeem Adeniji. I feel like they're pretty confident that one of those guys is going to be fine. So I don't see them looking at right tackle as a position of need right now, unless something falls in their lap.
What I do think they kind of view that way is running back. And because it's not the exact same situation as 2021, but it's very similar to me when they had an opening next to T. Higgins, and all they did was sign Mike Thomas. And you knew that they were going to take a receiver pretty early, and then as the draft came closer, Chase was going to be the pick, which is why I'm not dismissing at all the idea of Jahmyr Gibbs at the end of round 1. I think at least 8 experts have mocked Gibbs at 28 right now, which there's clearly some strong buzz about that. And again, I think it's one of those cases where it's if all of their first round defensive linemen and cornerbacks are off the board and he's still there after being passed on by the Giants and Bills, who are also connected to him, I could definitely see that being the pick, just because they've done this before. They've entered the draft in previous years, leaving one role or position open after not really doing anything in free agency, knowing that they can fill it with ease, or at least pretty likely in the draft. So I think they're targeting a Charbonnet or Roshan Johnson if they don't take a Gibbs in round 1. But if Gibbs is just staring at them in the face and none of their obvious picks are there, I could just see it just for the way that they've kind of set this up. Even though obviously there'd be a lot of pushback, right? People have taken a first round running back. But again, if you're at pick 28 and all your obvious first round options are gone, I think they can justify like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if there's a run on corner and guys like Forbes are gone, and there's a run on tight end, maybe Mayer and Dalton Kincaid are gone, and they're not comfortable drafting Darnell Washington or Sam Laporte in the first, I could absolutely see Gibbs being the pick. And I think it would be bad. I would be a lot more critical if you're rebuilding and you draft a running back in the first round. They're not rebuilding. The window's open right now. Gibbs could absolutely be a piece that could help them win the Super Bowl. So, he hasn't played a single snap. I don't want to say that yet, but you know what I mean. So, and then you talk about, you could free up that cap space from Joe Mixon as well after that. So,
is there I hesitate to ask this question, because if the team does draft a player that we name, that would be a little bit of egg on our face. But I guess if there are some that they're, being tossed out there connected to, I don't want to use the word hate, because I just don't really like to use that word in general. But is there one that you would like a lot less than many of the other options out there that have maybe been mentioned. Whether it's not necessarily the player himself, but maybe position where you go, why would you go there?
I kind of want to just reverse jinx it and just say the players that I love.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, I'll answer the first question. I'll answer the first part. I don't think Brian Bresee is that smart of a pick because I have major questions about him being more than what he was at Clemson. And I understand why he wasn't as productive. Obviously, dealing with injuries, a family tragedy, it's terrible stuff, right? I'm rooting like hell for him. I just hate the fact that, these guys get propped up as first-round picks. We have to talk about them in the universe where they go in the first round when they probably belong in, like, rounds 3 or 4 just because of who they are as players and what their profile is. So, like, you're forced to take him earlier than he probably should, and it puts added pressure on him to be something that he honestly wasn't in college. So like that's the reasoning behind that. And also, like, obviously Bergeron would just be a reach in general. It's tough projecting the end of the first round. Like, it's impossible. We saw like Luke Musgrave be mocked to them a couple of times. Like last year there was Trey McBride buzz at the end of the first round. Like, honestly, no one really knows this deep into the draft, but you are in a position where it's likely that you're not going to get a true first round player. And to me, like that would fall into the category of Brian Bresee.
Yeah, I would agree. Brian Bresee. Any tight end outside of Mayer or Kincaid, I feel like they're, Darnell Watt. As cool as it would be to see a 12-foot tall, 800-pound tight end running around the field, I just don't think he's worth it at 28 when you have guys like Laporte or Musgrave that you could get in the second or third. Bresee would be the big one, and then any running back. I don't think anyone's mocking any running backs outside of Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, but any running back other than those two should not be in the first round, or wide receiver. That would be really upsetting to me. I don't know if you guys saw, but Chris Collinsworth did a mock draft yesterday where he had Hendon Hooker drafted in the first round by the Chiefs. So if the Bengals were to take Hendon Hooker in the first round, that would be a terrible pick in my mind.
Well, it would apparently be just to stick it to the Chiefs at that point.
Yeah, I know. Keeping them away from the Chiefs. That's how you. That's how you win the Super Bowl.
That's right. What do you guys think about? How would you feel? Because there's kind of been some, I don't know if buzz, but just some thoughts being floated out there about Brian Branch, the safety of Alabama. What might the Bengals do that 2 years in a row if the board falls, and would you be happy about that? I understand the logic because you lose Jesse Bates and Von Bell, but you invested heavily in that position last year. I don't know. Seems like a good player, though.
Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, like he would be the most out of left field pick to me just because, like, he had been mocked to them like early in the offseason, but just by people who like didn't think of anything of the Nick Scott signing. Like, if you follow this team, like we all do, you know that they're not really interested in taking a safety early. They want Nick Scott to start. They obviously want Dax Hill to start. The thing with Branch is that he's not just, like, he's more like the Dax Hill type because he played the star position at Alabama, which is what Mika Fitzpatrick did. It's not a true traditional safety role. It's more of like an overhang defender or a slot defender. And now he can play both cornerback and safety. So yes, there's positional versatility. Yes, there could just be this crazy scenario where he's like by far the best player available. And I think he's a solid player, but like, if you can't play, if he's not projected to be like a starting boundary cornerback, and he's mostly projected to be a safety, I just can't see it. It just seemed like such a lazy, the Bengals lost both safeties, let's give him a safety in this mock draft. It just seemed like a lazy analysis.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they paid Nick Scott because they expect Nick Scott to start next to Dax Hill. So even if he's there, I don't see them taking Branch. I think Branch is very good, but I think they're pretty satisfied. They also have Tyson Anderson, and they don't really know what they have in him yet. He was, I think, a 5th round pick last year, but he spent, I think, most of the year on IR with a hamstring injury. So I know he's athletic too, but I just wouldn't see it.
It's been a long day, and we're a few minutes away from the kickoff of the NFL draft, but it's been a long day, so I can't remember. Trey Flowers, right? Yeah. So you throw that into, I think he signed elsewhere, right? So I
don't know.
Or he visited elsewhere. I don't think he's back with the Bengals as of yet. So, I guess that's also where you say, well, they lost the 2 safeties, and then potentially if they're not planning on bringing back Flowers with the positional versatility that Branch brings, maybe that all plays into that conspiracy theory. I just, like you, again, they've shown for the most part, tight end and safety, offensive guard, those are not positions that they take very often in the first round. It's a rarity. They have to feel really, really good about those players and have a major, major need and or have that player be the absolute best player available in order to take that position in the first round.
It's always the case, man. It's like it's why like I wouldn't rule out them taking a defensive lineman in the first round for the first time in 22 years. Like we've talked about like how that's a trend that they could break, but like they just don't do that because they don't value defensive linemen like that. They were ready to take George Karlaftis last year had Dax Hill not been there, and then when they took Dax Hill, he was the first safety they drafted in the first round since 1988. So like when you're this late into the first round, the trends, your positional value arguments, they mostly go out the window just because there's just not a ton of top players at those premium positions that you normally value. They took Kevin Zeiler, I think at like the exact pick, like 20th pick in 2012, and they never take guards that early. They took Eric Steinbach, essentially the first pick of the second round. So, like a lot of positional value arguments, they still uphold if a good player at those premium positions are there, but typically sometimes your best players are those play those positions that you don't normally pay that much.
We're a few minutes away from the NFL draft, and the Bengals are not going to be on the clock for a bit yet unless something crazy happens. So we are going to be here for a few minutes longer, lead you up to the draft, and then we'll be back. I think we're going to come back on a little bit before the Bengals pick, unless, of course, there is a trade. We're going to come back on live. We're going to recap kind of what's happened so far, talk about the players available, and then go into the Bengals. At least this is the plan for right now. We'll see. But we'll go through the Bengals pick, and then, of course, break it down, and we'll do all that live for you tonight. We'll be bringing you more coverage throughout the entire weekend, not only on the podcast and on the video side of things, but on CincyJungle.com. I know my guy over here, John at A to Z Sports, is going to be writing up a ton of stuff as well on his great site, so check that out. Jason, myself, John, Matt Minnick, Kevin, between Orange and Black Insider, 3 and Out, Coach Speak, Chalk Talk, we're going to be bringing you all kinds of different stuff here. Also, keep an eye on our guy, Bengal Jim, and his social media handles because he is at the draft. I'm jealous. I was there last year. Couldn't swing it this year, so jealous that he is there. I'm sure he'll have all kinds of fun stuff that he's pumping out there. But just with a handful of minutes left, guys, I don't know. I don't know if you want to call it final thoughts or just,
Dare we make predictions?
Yeah. Dare we make predictions? Let's do it. I want to go last though because I don't want to lead off on this thing.
Okay, I'll make a wide. I'll cast a wide net and I'll try to narrow it down. I think they're targeting a corner. Traditionally, in the first 27 picks, about 4 cornerbacks go off the board. This year, it's probably going to be 5. If one of those top 5, talking obviously Witherspoon and Gonzalez are not going to be there. If Porter, Banks, Forbes are there, whoever they like the most is probably going to be the pick. None of them are there. I could see a universe where they go to their 6th cornerback. It could be Cam Smith. Like, he's the guy I think that they like a lot as well. And if they don't go that route, it's probably going to be a defensive lineman. Like, one of the Miles Murphys, one of, maybe, like, Bercy's probably going to be there too, and I don't dismiss him as a target. Like, I can see that happening. So I'm going to say right now Cam Smith is going to be the pick. I think they're going to take the 6th cornerback just because they like this quarterback class a lot.
Okay. It keeps changing for me. I would have said Emmanuel Forbes a few days ago. I saw something that he's moving up draft boards. I would have said Kalijah Cansey. I don't know if he'll be there. I'm gonna go on a limb and I'm gonna say Jahmyr Gibbs at number 28. So we'll see. I'm going to go out on a limb and just say, man, I just really want the Bengals to draft Joey Porter Jr. just so his dad can wear a Bengals.
The content would be amazing.
That's, oh my God, I would just, you want to talk about page views and clicks and downloads. Good God. So that would be good for business on our end of things if that happened. And that's what he's a hell of a talented kid too. Unfortunately, we didn't get around to doing a deeper dive on a prospect profile on him, but he's got a lot of skills and, obviously, good lineage there and everything. So, that would be a guy I would be like, man, if they pounced on him, if he was the guy to fall. I just worry about this. And I've said this a couple of times now on the show, and I know we're getting set to go live on the NFL draft in just a little bit here. But I worry when you're talking about the 5th or 6th best player at a position group, even in the first round, as opposed to the 2nd best tight end. You know what I mean? I just get a little leery about that when you're talking about player value, but I understand the importance of the position and the depth of the position there. I still think, like John, I still think it's going to be corner. I think it's going to be a guy who falls, one of the more talented guys who falls, that they're going, I can't believe this guy is here. Maybe that's Forbes. Maybe it's Porter. I don't know. But I think there's going to be someone. Everybody says this time of year, everybody says the golden rule. There's no way that guy's going to be there. There's no way he's going to be there. He'll be taken. And lo and behold, every year, there's a small handful of guys that last through the first round, into the second round, and sometimes even towards the end of night 2. And you're going, what the hell happened? And these teams just aren't as high on guys as all the fans are, or there's something else going behind the scenes that, we don't know about. So, I don't wish that on anybody, but perhaps a player's loss is the Bengals' gain with getting a talented player. There's going to be guys that fall. John and I talked about before we took the air. I mean, last year they didn't think Dax was going to be there, and they didn't think Karlaftis was going to be there, going 1 pick in front of them, and that's what happened.
I didn't hear a player. Yeah, I didn't hear a player either. It's true.
Oh, you didn't hear a player. Oh, you still want my pick? Hey,
yeah.
I'm going to swing for the fences. Joey Porter Jr. He'll be there.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. That's I'll probably look like an idiot, but that'll be. But I do agree that one of your guys' picks could very well be the pick as well. We'll get going though, because I know the NFL draft is coming up here, and we will be back in just a little while here. Obviously, we're going to play it a little bit by ear to see what. How long the picks go and all that kind of stuff. But we'll recap things. We'll go through the Bengals pick and analyze it from there. But guys, thank you for all of your work and everything you've done this week for this show and our channel and Cincy Jungle and A to Z. Everything. Appreciate it. We'll be back in a little bit, and we'll talk about what happened. All right. See you guys.
See you guys then.